Lisa. I get to talk to you about modeling how long it takes to sell a home. The days on market metric is the number of days between the listing and the closing. And I'm going to break that up into two pieces: the time it takes to get a purchase contract and the time it takes to close that purchase contract. The first part has a quick class for purchase contracts that happen in the first 8 days and a slow class. I'm going to find the probability of being in each of these classes and then use the weighted average as my prediction for this listing to contract part. I'm going to add that to my prediction for the contract to close piece in order to predict the days on market metric, which, if you're a seller, this is your holding cost. And if you're a buyer, this is how fast and competitively you need to make an offer. All of my data came from RE Colorado, our multiple listing service. I have 28,000 plus data points. They're all sold single family residences in the city and county of Denver between 2015 and 2019. From many features, I utilized 48 and 9 ended up being significant in at least one of my models. For example, ratio is a comparison of the original price to the final price. If this value is greater than 1, the listing was initially overpriced. Cash buyers show up in about 1/5 of our data and are instrumental in predicting the time to go from contract to closing, which probably doesn't surprise you. Here's the fun part. If we say that every day that I don't get a purchase contract is a failure, then I'm modeling the number of failures until my first success, getting a purchase contract. In probability theory, that is exactly a geometric distribution. And if I call all of my data points, all my home sales trials, and I define a success to be a day that I don't have a closing, then I am modeling the number of successes in a fixed number of trials, and that is exactly a binomial distribution. So I have these parametric distributions inherent in my question, and I want to try to build a parametric model based on these distributions in order to predict the days on market. So we'll start with the listing to contract piece. It's skewed very right, and it's bimodal in its log transform, which was my hint to look for a quick class and a slow class. I can use logistic regression to find the probability of being in these classes, plus logistic regression gives me which predictors are most closely related to being in the quick class and which are most closely related to being in the slow class. For example, if your agent is a realtor, which is an ethics designation above broker, the listing is more likely to be in the quick class. And unsurprisingly, overpriced homes are more likely to be in the slow class. And now we get to make our quick and slow models. And I really want to use my parametric models to do this. And I can get predictions and I can quantify error, but I can't use any inference because I'm just not capturing enough of the variance in my model. So in my back pocket, I'm going to keep a non-parametric model for comparing my results, but also to try to extract what features are important. So I used a gradient boost for this, and sure enough, it found out that ratio is important here, and it's saying to us, yes, pricing is very important in determining how quickly you get a purchase contract. Okay, now we get to do the contract to closing piece. It looks much better behaved, and in fact, our average error is only 8 days, and it pulled out cash buyer as a significant predictor. And we've made our model now, so we'll take a piece of data that the model hasn't seen and see how it performs. First, we get our probability of being in the quick and slow classes. Then we get predictions from the quick and slow models. We find that weighted average, and we'll add that to our prediction for the contract to close piece to get a final prediction, which we can compare to the actual days. And we were only off by 8 days, which sounds great, except we were off by 8 days because we were over by 19 days here and under by 11 days here. So that it sounds great, could have gone the other direction. And what we really care about, rather than how we did on one data point, is how we do on average. So this model has an average error of 24 days. For perspective, if I just simulated these predictions from those parametric distributions, I have an average error of 33 days. My non-parametric model gets me down to 22 days. And if I do a square root transform, I can get that down to 21 days. And in a more practical sense, if I built this model on just the 95% of the data that was on the market for at most 4 months, I can get it down to 16 days. Thank you very much for listening to me. There's lots more work and fun to be had in this data, but I would love to answer any questions that you have.